Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, ball watchers. We got the full crew back together again. Justin has joined us from your vast travels, both overseas and to the out west. Justin, welcome back to the show. I just want to make one point before we welcome you back in officially, but I am wearing the sunglasses today. And it's in, I think, some solidarity with the team right now because we got a lot of haters from some of our own, clapping off about how, we're frauds, we're awful after watching us lose last night. And I'm here just to block out the haters. So that's what I'm doing with these shades. I know you'd be wearing yours in solidarity if you'd brought them to work today. But welcome back anyway, Justin.
I would not be wearing them, Jake. You've had some disgusting starts to some of these podcasts, but I think this is the worst one yet.
Oh well, we'll let people decide.
When you hopped on before this, I thought you had like eye surgery that I was not aware of.
No, we'll let the people decide how they like this. But right. I guess for those on the podcast, I am wearing sunglasses right now. So yes, and we also came off a loss last night against Real Salt Lake, taking it to us in this game, especially the second half, losing 3-1 at home at City Park, which always sucks to lose at home because we've been so strong there this season. But we've got to do this for you anyway, so we're going to recap the full game and also parlay that into a preview of San Jose Earthquakes, which is coming up in some short fashion here on Saturday as we head west. But Justin, I'll let you start it off for us today since it's been a while. But how would you describe your feeling last night of the game or your feeling about this team as we move forward?
I had to think about this one a little bit because I did think it was a good game to start. I'd love to see us bounce back, but it was just very up and down. I'm going with the word turbulence just because I feel like it kind of applies to the game, but also how we've been this season with our hot start and then we go down and then we were back up for a couple games and now we're coming off of back-to-back losses and a tie versus LAFC. So I don't know. I just feel a lot of ups and downs right now. So turbulence is my word.
Yeah, and you meant Galaxy, right? With the LAFC one, we had them coming up. Yeah, I'm bad. No, you're good. For my word, I think that's a good one. Last night did feel turbulent, and I think our season so far has been like a roller coaster, just like ups and downs, like significant ups and also some downs. But if I had to, I'm going to go more for the game last night, and I feel like I might have used this one. Have I used partial before? I don't know if I have either, but partial for me is the word I would pick because it was very much a partial performance last night from the team. I think partial in that we had some performers that I was actually happy with, and we had some others that I was really unhappy with. And we also had a game where we played. I think we actually really, really played probably about an hour of that game. The last 30 minutes were kind of just us taking the heat from RSL. But that aside, not loving what we saw last night. I think it was a pretty depressing game for those that watched the full one. I know you were there, Justin. How was the feeling in the stadium? Was the air sucked out of it, or people were still sticking to their guns?
We were sticking to our guns for the most part. I mean, it was a great atmosphere to start. Great, I guess summer night now. The weather felt phenomenal. Everybody was standing. I didn't think I was going to make it, so I sold our season tickets and then I rebought. So I was actually in the lower level, so stood the whole time. The atmosphere was cool down there. I will say it was definitely taken out towards the end, especially with that third goal.
Yeah,
I hadn't seen it like that, especially at home, obviously because we've been so good at home. But it felt completely different. People were leaving early. It was silent. I was not a fan of that.
Yeah, you hate to see that. You hate to see that, but get it out of the way. Let's do the recap, then we'll wash our hands of this whole game and situation. But getting into some of the highlights, I mean, I think most of them probably center in the first half for me. And I saw some good moments from Blum. And this is just a general comment I have, but I noticed last night, just even early on in the 6th minute, I almost feel like last night we were playing him. Obviously, he brings so much more quality back to the midfield. He is sorely missed, especially when Leuven's gone. And I almost think that him last night, me watching him, I almost feel like he was playing Leuven's position last night, where he was being asked to not only sweep up in the back, but also contribute in distribution, starting attack moving forward. Because you saw some passes last night where he was able to break the lines or spring some wingers into the play. So I almost feel like in Leuven's absence, we'll get into lineups going forward here, but I want to talk a little bit about his roles. I feel like he might have a little bit more to offer in terms of going forward in that capacity. But saw some tidbits of that last night. There was also, I mean, tidbits is how I would describe the performances. Some people had some flashes of, hey, it was pretty good. There was a great slide tackle from Nerwinski early on in the game, the 8th, where he kind of wrapped around it and then possessed it moving forward. Blum had a rip that he made a quick interception and just let it fly, which I love to see. He's got a good shot on him, like powerful at least. I don't know about accuracy yet. We'll get there.
That was one. I was surprised to see him take a rip, which I love. Like you said, he's kind of filling in for Leuven, who can definitely rip some shots. But it's one of those things when you think about Blum, it's more possession and winning tackles for us. But I love to see him taking some rips. And then right after that, led into our first goal, or our only goal, 20th minute. Little Johnny Nelson and Jared Stroud build up with the overlap for a dangerous cross. Ends up on the other side to Nowinski, cross to Gio. Who wins an aerial ball, which is not one that we see a lot of Gio in. You could see that he was being held on his jersey. So I was happy to see him kind of create that physical presence that we've been missing from Klaus. And then after he scored the goal, he did the finger touch and he even pointed up to what I would assume would be Klaus and wherever he was sitting. But I like to think so, at least.
Big man looking down on his protege. But no, I agree. I think it was an impressive header. I mean, you've been the center back side of that, where it's hard to defend those types of balls when they're, and that one was kind of just hanging up there from Nerwinski, but he got up strong and he won it. So I thought that was a really strong goal from him, especially trying to be the number 9 that we kind of need him to be right now. But otherwise, I thought there were some moments from Indy. He had a curler over the wall that just missed a little high and wide from pretty deep. He also hit another bomb. Just he's got some serious power in his locker. I think he'll score some big goals this season for us, like really, really cool goals. After Nelson had given it to Gioacchini, who laid it off. There's a lot of those layoffs last night, and I think there was some great layoffs, and there were some they can totally read. We're going to lay this ball off and just take it off of us. Otherwise, I saw a great Berkey save in the extra time on the first half. He was able to hold off a corner header on the back post as well. So, I mean, all intents and purposes, first half wasn't bad. First half, you kind of left yourself saying, we probably could have put another one in. We probably could have been in more of the driver's seat heading into the second half.
Yeah, I don't like that we have on here great save by Roman to end the first half. And our first highlighted second half is Roman Berkey with another great save on the near post. So he did a lot. I mean, they had what? I think they had 9 shots on goal. They scored 3 of them. We'll get into their goals, but he couldn't do anything on any of those. Those were nice finishes, curlers, pretty close as well. But another one, I love seeing Celio out there again. I think as a whole for the game as well. I think we did great on the press. Like you tweeted that Stroud was everywhere in the first half. I think Celio did well with that. And I think Blum kind of closed the gaps whenever those guys were pressing high as well. And Nico was kind of squeezing him. So it was good to see that. Celio had a good recovery in that, wins the ball in the attacking third, which is great for us as well, as we always love those in the third, just a ping and get it right on goal. And then in the 64th, Gio laid it off for Stroud, who forces a big save out of their keeper. That was down towards the corner I was in section 101, and it was an impressive shot by Stroud. It was a pretty pacey ball by Gio, and it needed to be with how fast the play was going. And he had an outside of the foot to get that on, and he had some power on it. So it was good to see him get up for that.
I want to pause there, Justin, because the more that I look at our highlights and lowlights, that for me, him missing that chance or Stroud not burying that after Gioacchini laying it off beautifully for him kind of tells the tale of when we stop and they just drive the nail in and win this game. It's because that's the 64th minute we missed that chance. In the 65th minute, they scored their goal. And we'll get into that in the lowlights, but that's one that you kind of kick yourself for, because who knows if that goes in, we could be talking about a win, this morning versus talking about, a 3-1 loss that was pretty demoralizing towards the end there. So that just goes back to, you got to be clinical with your chances, and you got whenever you're presented with them, when you miss those, what you're leaving open. And that's literally a minute later, they go on and take the lead.
No, there was 2 other ones I wanted to mention in highlights real quick before I toss a question to you. Nerwinski had a slide block on a Luna run, and then Berkey had a great save again on a 1-on-1 with Luna. There was one more chance that we don't have in here for highlights that the keeper laid down and kind of spilled it, and then we tried to get it on a goal, and they had a great block off the line. Who shot that?
He was offsides. I think Gioacchini ended up being offsides in that play. I thought it was Gioacchini. Okay. He tried to dribble him.
No. This was a ball that the keeper came out and slid, and then Nico hopped over him. It might have even been late enough to be against it, or all. I'll have to look that up. We're good.
Yeah. No, I know what chance you're talking about. I know
the goalie the goal was wide open. There's 2 defenders, and then one of the defenders made a good block. Otherwise, that should have been a finish as well.
You're
far as missing big chances.
No, you're right. In terms of stats, you kind of look at the split. It was pretty close in possession. We had 48 to their 52%. XG, I think it was our lowest one of the season so far, 0.72 for the entire game, which is disgusting. And getting further into, you look at the stats, it's a lot of blue here. And I know that RSL isn't a blue team, but they're a blue team when it comes to looking at the stats here. And they had most of the majority of all of the rest of the stats. We beat them in shots off target, which is nothing to be proud about there. But otherwise, I mean, they played hungry. They played lethal. I'm not going to lie. The soccer gods were on RSL's side last night. They finished every chance that they earned or that they were given. It felt like things just weren't going our way at times, and that Demir Krylock, holy cow! I mean, just lethal on those two chances. I think that was his first brace in years. So it was a bummer it came at our hands.
The one thing I will say before we get into the rest of the lowlights, or kind of an overall lowlight for me, the fan base, we did not appreciate the ref. In my opinion, there was a lot of tackles in either, if their tackles weren't that bad, it was multiple back-to-backs where they should have picked up yellows. They didn't pick up their first yellow to the 54th. And by that point, we already had 3. And if it's that chippy of a game, I don't think it's that one-sided. And then all before that we picked up our 3 yellows when it was a tie game. It's not like we were getting pissed that we were already down 3-1. So I was not a huge fan of that. And it was one of those like sarcastic claps when they finally got a yellow. The stadium went nuts.
No, then that's a great call out, because that's something that I think Carnell mentioned in the post game too. And this is a perfect segue to lowlights: is yellows have a time and a place. You want to burn them when you're getting burned, and it's going to lead to a chance, or what have you. There are intentional good yellows. You've talked about it before. Like if you're going to lose the ball in a dangerous spot, bring the guy down. No point in letting him go. You have a yellow to burn. And ideally, that's going to be in the second half or deeper into the game when you have, a little more flexibility. We're getting these early yellows where you got to think that it's in their minds. Like, one, you got to have better composure to not get stupid yellows. There was a couple things I wrote down here where I'm pretty sure Nerwinski had a cheap yellow, stupid. Bartlett had a cheap yellow, also stupid. But that alters how you play your game. I mean, you think about your experience as a center back. If you're sitting on a yellow for, I don't know, 80, 70% of the game, that's going to change how you play.
I completely agree. And it's one of those things, especially as a center back, like you said, you have to go in a little bit lighter, and you're hesitant that entire time. And Jake, I'm starting to get a little bit worried. Maybe next episode we should talk about the buildup of how many yellows the guys have. And as we kind of look into where that's going to line up as we get through the season and possible games they're going to miss, because yes, we're not getting red cards that consistently. We have 2 with Johnny and Hebert throughout the season of double yellows. But now we're looking at missing more and more games, especially Stroud didn't get one last night, I don't believe. But, I mean, that guy's a yellow card machine.
Yeah,
he did get one. Oh, yeah. Jesus. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, dude. It's like it's going to continue to build. And I looked at that. We're not first in the MLS in yellows. We have 45, and we are 6th. But still, 6 out of 29 teams, that's not a place you want to be.
No, it's not. And it definitely alters how you play defense. For me, the yellows were a negative last night. I'm going to speak more in generalities here. I mentioned this already, but last night, I feel like we rely a lot on hitting our target man. Either that's Joe Aquini or a winger or a central midfielder, and laying the ball off like on a one-time to get some width. And RSL was ready to anticipate those last night. There was plenty of times, especially in the first half, where they just picked those off before they could land at the feet of who they were meant for. Their goal that came in the 15th minute, and that was a counter off of after Parker like kneecapped this ball into the middle of the park, and it was a bad giveaway. They took it down the field, squared it up. The guy dummied over it. Great finish, and a great counterattack. Great team goal. Nothing Berkey could do. I know you didn't think that either. There was some long free kicks and set pieces that I still am not convinced we do a great job set piece defending on, which is frustrating considering how stout our center backs are. Bartlett's a massive, massive dude, and Parker is no small guy either. But, physical, we've got to win those battles in there. We cannot be conceding set piece chances.
Dude, I feel like we win the first ball. It's all about when it's the second ball. I don't know if we don't. We need to get to it. Or when after it's like bouncing around, we're not as good just running through the ball. I don't know if we're hesitant to get a foul, but we can't clear with our feet. And that actually happened. We'll touch on it later, but I think that happened on yeah. So I'll talk. There was a cheap yellow by Norwich in the 45th, but the 47th, Luna keeps the ball. Blum, the ball was at his feet. It was kind of pacey, but then he took too long of a touch, and then they took it back. Luna took it back. And it was a nice finish by Krylock after it did nutmeg Bartlett.
Yep.
That's also a really close finish, but something you can't do when you're Roman. It's unlucky there. But that is one where Blum, I feel like if he holds onto it or just clears it, that's another chance. And we're still only tie game in the 47th.
Yeah, I mean, there was some other stuff too. I mean, their third goal was just like a knife to our hearts. Parker stepped up again, didn't win the ball. He made a comment after the game about they do try to defend forward, which is evident. We see them do that. They step up, they get on the backs of forwards and wingers, attempting to just throw a foot in there or to throw them off physically and win that ball back, which is great when it's working. And when it's not, you're left tremendously exposed at the back. And this was a case of that. Blum, God love him, was probably exhausted. He wasn't tracking back that well. They did another cutback cross with no one tracking the runner. And again, another curling finish from Krylak. And we're done. I mean, the game was done and dusted there. It's not like we had this huge flurry of chances after that. And that was pretty much it for me. So getting into player ratings, actually, Justin, before we do that, for anyone that's tuning in here live or afterwards on YouTube, subscribe to the show. Go down below and hit the subscribe button. And while you're there, hit the notifications button so you know when we're doing this. We did some digging here on the ball watching side. Over half of you that watch these videos aren't subscribed. What are you doing? What are you doing? Hit subscribe. We love doing this for you guys. We do it at least twice a week, more with the U.S. men's national team recently, and probably more for the Gold Cup coming up. But come on, you got to subscribe to the show.
I'll say a big one on that. Like you said, hit the notifications as well, because we like when people get in here, get a little feisty, throw some comments in there. There's some banter that goes on back and forth depending on what time once we get our regularly scheduled programming. But yeah, absolutely.
Moving to player ratings, let's expedite this, Justin, so we can get into the preview here. But for me, I'm going to say the back line last night, not great. I actually thought people were just roasting our fullbacks last night. Like, I honestly think the center backs were worse than our fullbacks last night. I thought Parker and Bartlett were exposed almost the entire night, and their lack of pace was on display. But I thought Nerwinski had a decent night, and I thought Nelson, especially in the first half, was a big part of our attack moving forward, combining with Stroud and our central midfielders. So I don't know. I mean, for a 3-1 loss, it's hard to give anyone more than like a C, maybe even D for the center back pairing.
Yeah, I mean, you skipped over Berkey. I still think they have him as a 6-2 here. I would give him probably like a B+, or probably just a flat B.
Some good saves.
I think he had great saves, and I think the goals he couldn't do anything about. And he moved into the midfield. I thought Indy did well to get forward. I don't remember recalling Indy doing anything on defense, so that's kind of worrisome. And then kind of the opposite. Blum does a lot defensively, and he had that one good rip, but we need to see them kind of work together and not be so interchanging, but both up and back. So
yeah,
midfield, I think they did all right. I didn't feel like RSL played through us that often. I feel like it was down to the wings and getting some crosses in, like you mentioned in the preview. And then as we move up to the next three, Stroud, Ostrak, Pompeo, I thought they did good to press. I don't think we created as many chances. Obviously, it shows in the XG. So I think those three could have stepped up there.
Yeah, they were fine. Stroud, especially in the very beginning, was playing great. So take the first 25 for me. Like, he was behind everything we were doing. And then Celio, for me, I don't know. He felt kind of lost last night in the shuffle. There wasn't much that was going down our right side. I feel like everything was kind of going to our left side. So and I feel like that happens when he starts, is the play is always on the opposite wing from him. But maybe that's because he can be dangerous on his own. So I thought he did fine last night. I don't know. I probably think like a C for him. Ostrak, not great last night either. I thought the best performance was Gioacchini, obviously getting up for that goal. And he played a pretty strong game last night. You do want to see him not do as much of the simulation sometimes with the diving, but some of it's hard to tell. Like, where does the line end? Like, where are you being forced down, and when are you kind of just trying to sell it? But he is picking up a physical side of his game, and I do really appreciate what he's been able to kind of parse together in Klaus's absence, because it's been a process, right? Like, he's gotten better and better, but he's got 8 goals now. Like, he's legit.
Yeah, and I think he needed to step up during this time period. And yeah, we'll talk. I mean, you can do some of the flops. He's just trying to create chances. So I'm okay with it, to be honest. I know it's frustrating at some points, but keep doing what you're doing. Predictions: you had a 3-1 dub. I was not on the preview, so I'm going to say a 3-1 L and just say, spot on. Good job, Justin. Where do we go from here? We'll just make this one quick, Jake, unless you want to pull up the map. But last time, I think we were in Destin, and then we argued about being in Destin maybe twice. So we're not in Destin anymore, I'll tell you that. We're going a little more north. Shout out Mike Ritter. We're going to Atlanta. It's a bigger city, but we're moving away from Florida, dude. We're definitely, and I don't want to go west to Houston. So that's one of those things where we're definitely not on the beach anymore, though. I think we're back in a lull. We're back on surrounded by land.
Yeah, I agree. And I see a good comment in the comments about the debate at left back. We're going to get to that, John. Good question. But I have more to say about where do we go from here, but I want to do the preview first. So let's get into San Jose. So we're playing San Jose at the lovely hour of 9:30 Central Time on Saturday in San Jose, making the flight out to California after playing on Wednesday and this past Saturday. So short rest for the boys. But San Jose, two-time champions. They've kind of been suffering as of recently in the last couple of years. Failed to make the playoffs 11 of the last 15 seasons. Pretty unacceptable for a club with their rich history. But this season, these guys are world beaters. And when I say that, they play down to the level of opposition, but it looks like they've also played up to the level of opposition. So they've taken down LAFC, Philadelphia Union, and Seattle already. And there should be no worries. They can go head-to-head, toe-to-toe with anyone they want to, but they're also able to fall victim to teams that are very much subpar them, which is made evident by a game like last night, which I'll get to here. But STL connection, Justin. I did some digging on this one, but Steve Ralston was born in Oakville. I did not know that. He's an assistant coach for San Jose Earthquakes. He's got over 350 MLS appearances, almost 40 U.S. men's national team caps, and also player coached at AC St. Louis back in 2010. Do you remember that, AC St. Louis?
No.
Yeah, it was a short stint, cut short by financial issues, but he was a player coach.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
It's kind of, I'm still confused by that whole situation, but it's good to have a nice job digging on that.
Yeah.
That's a random one. Yeah.
It is random.
And as we get a little bit more into the actual preview of the game, we did play these guys already, and we absolutely stomped them 3-0 at home. We had 20 shots with 8 on goal compared to their 13-2. They are going to be I'm surprised by that, knowing their offensive power. I'm going to talk about the individuals on the team, but I mean, that's also when we had a full squad and no injuries and early in the season, strong legs, all of that. 45% possession, which is what we want to be at. We had an XG of 2.13 and they had 1.9. So a lot of shots going on as well.
Yeah. They had one person. We had Klaus at the time. I think we also had Leuven at the time. I'm not sure about Blum, but they also had Cade Cowell, who they'll be missing for this one. But getting into San Jose, how they fared kind of since we last saw them and defeated them is they're 7-6-6 as of last night. So 7 wins, 6 losses, 6 draws. Good for 5th in the Western Conference. Away, they're abysmal. Only 1 win so far, 6 losses and 3 draws. And then home, they are unbeatable. They are 6 wins, 0 losses, and 3 draws. But as of last night, they've got a -2 goal differential, receiving a thrashing at the hands of Houston. Like I did mention, they beat LAFC 2-1. They drew Dallas 1-1. They beat Seattle 1-0. They beat the Union 2-1. So these are some pretty good teams they've been facing since we last matched up with them. But Houston last night, obviously we just saw the boys from down south, and 4-1. I mean, it was not a pretty game from them. And they had everyone but Cade Cowell starting in their lineup because Cade is away with the Gold Cup U.S. men's national team. And I watched the highlights. There was a giveaway inside the 18. It looked like a goal that we would have scored in the very early part of the season for Houston to kind of open up the scoring. A couple cutback cross goals. There was some goalkeeper misplaying from their side. And honestly, just a game they just looked awful, but they were away from home. And that's not something we haven't seen from them this season. But home is a different story. They scored their goal on a free kick, but they just didn't generate a lot from open play. So I'm excited to see what we'll see on Saturday, like which version of San Jose we get, but they've got some good players.
Also, positive spin on the whole home aspect. We're kind of unreal at home and just got absolutely bounced last night.
True.
So I'm not too worried about it. So, positive, or the players real quick. Cade Cowell, we already said he's not going to be there. U.S. Gold Cup duty. He's a 19-year-old American, just returned from the U20 World Cup where he's a standout there. Linked to some abroad values of about $5 million for Juventus or Milan. So, but not a guy we have to worry about. I think the two guys you really need to worry about. I'll take the first one, Jake. Christian Espinosa, 28-year-old Argentinian designated player, by far his most productive season. After 4 full seasons in San Jose and bouncing around La Liga and Argentina first year, he has 8 goals and 5 assists, leads the team in goals, assists, shots on target, key passes, highest rated player, number 1 in XAG in MLS, and number 2 in KP behind Almada. Help me with those acronyms.
Yeah. So expected assisted goals and key passes. So the guy's a creator and also a finisher. 8 goals, 5 assists. He's doing it at both ends. He's a dangerous player. He's one that probably is a dark horse for an MVP candidate right now if he keeps it up. But Jeremy Ibobese is their striker. We had some fun talking about his name last time, I remember. But he's
Yeah,
26.
I could have said it this time.
You could have gotten it. He's 26. He's American. Scored 17 goals last season, the season of his career so far. And that was the most productive since he started in the MLS in 2017. So far this season, he's playing second fiddle to Christian Espinoza, but he's got 7 goals, 2 assists. So not as heavy on the assisting. Got the most shots on the team, though. And basically just right behind Espinoza in almost every category. But he's a big target man striker. You will not miss him. Otherwise, Cade Cowell, like you said, is probably their other star. That's their front 3. So Christian plays on the right, Jeremy in the middle, and Cade out left. But Cade did the U20 World Cup, missed significant time with them, and then went straight to Gold Cup duty, basically. So he played 2 games, I'm pretty sure, and now he's gone again. So unfortunate for them, but fortunate for us.
Yeah, but Espinoza and Abobase have 8 goals, 7 goals, and then it drops off to 2. So you really, that's one of those things we really just need to focus on in these next couple of days in training, is making sure that we kind of know where those guys are and put Blum basically one of their pockets.
Right. Only other honorable mention I'd say, Justin, is Jackson Ewell, who we talked about. He was one of Greg's guys when Greg initially came into the national team. He's their central midfielder, kind of their composer, kind of like their Leuven. He distributes the ball for them. He has the 5th most passes into the opposition third in the MLS. So he's the guy that kind of unlocks the midfield block or the defensive block to begin the passage of play, to be dangerous and lead to a chance. So keep an eye out for him as well. But those are some of the key players. Style-wise, this is a team that's coached by Luchi Gonzalez, who's a pretty big household name in the MLS, at least. He earned his fame kind of more at Dallas, and churning out product after product of this talent pool that Dallas has built and contributed to our national team even. But he's coached Dallas successfully in 2019 and 2020, leading them to the playoffs. He was an assistant coach for the men's national team after he was fired in 21 from Dallas, and then he was announced as the coach at the end of last August. So this is his first full season with the Quakes, and I feel like this is a team that sets up to play in a 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1. I expect to see a 4-3-3 on Saturday personally. They attack with speed. They have plenty of it, and they're extremely direct. So a little bit reminiscent of us. They're a little more comfortable in possession as well. So I wouldn't expect to see us lead the possession in this game. And like I said, they'll stretch us with the width and with the speed they have, and they're comfortable on the ball. So I am comfortable letting them do that in this game. It'll be great for us.
Yeah, as we talk about trends and storylines with them, I would love to see them possess. One thing we need to look at, so they're actually doing pretty well in the last 5 games, 2 wins, 2 draws, 1 loss. You already kind of mentioned that. They're currently 11th in ESPN's MLS Power Rankings. Their strengths, direct free kicks, set pieces, and with their front dynamic 3, which will now be 2 for Saturday against us. Looking specifically at their offense with those front guys, their XG is only 1.15 per 90 minutes, which is 5th worst in the MLS, and they only average 1.17 goals for, which is kind of middle of the pack. So they're performing very equivalent to what their XG is. However, their home form, 1.24 XG, is still 23rd in the MLS, but they have 13 goals for. And one thing I wanted to note that you noted here, I love it. 20% of their goals come in the first 10 minutes of the game, but then half of their goals come between the 51st and 80th. So we definitely need to make sure that we do not get punched in the mouth first thing out there, especially with how good they are at home.
God, no, I really hope not, because they are a little more productive at home, but not the most productive team. They score every 63 minutes at home right now. They're averaging about 2.33 points per match, which gives them one of the biggest home field advantages that we see in the MLS right now. So far, in any second half played at home, they have never lost. They've always been winning or at least tied in a second half alone. So I'd say kind of comfortably a pretty good second half team. In terms of goal output, they've scored most of them inside the 18, 1 free kick direct goal, and 5 from outside the 18. So gotta be wary of the long shot from them. Otherwise, they're the second least shots on target. Like I said, they don't create a whole lot, but they're 7th in terms of goal creating actions when you're looking at either shots that were caused by a defensive move. They either stuck a foot in and made a tackle and it led to a shot or it led to a chance. And also 6th in the shot creating actions when you think about fouls. So don't foul them. Don't make it easy for them to create chances, and really be careful with the ball in your own opposition third, because they can be lethal when it comes to creating chances from that. Otherwise, this team loves to cross. They have top 10 amounts of crossing, and they have number 8 in terms of the amount of corners allotted to them. So this is a team you just can't give anything to. Make them earn it.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I'll quickly touch on defense before we get into our keys of the game. Their XGA is 1.67 per 90, and they're for their full season. That's second worst in the MLS, as opposed to when they're at home, it's 1.34, which is the eighth in the MLS. Only 5 goals against at home, with 30% of those goals against coming in the last 10 minutes of the game, which is something that we have not been very good at. But I would like to see if we can kind of turn that on, especially with some of these spark plugs. We'll talk about guys coming back on and subs coming on later on, but they concede every 161 minutes. That's not great to hear. They average 1.38 points per match, better than a home points per match as well. And they have the 7th most shots against on target. So that's one thing that I think we can try to push through. But they have 44% of clean sheets at home, 4th most saves with a 78% goalkeeper save percentage, 5th in the MLS. I think they're playing a lot of teams and we're seeing that a lot in the MLS, where teams are just getting shots on goal. We're more of a chance creator with less shots on actual goals.
Yeah.
So I think we can put those away.
Yeah, we have a better, I think, conversion rate
Agreed.
than I think a lot of teams do.
That's
but
the word.
Let's look at the keys to the game here. So let's start offensively. So up top here, for me, and this is more general, mentally, we've got to be there for this whole game, the full 90 plus whatever minutes it takes. I feel like we kind of switched off last night a little bit in the RSL game. It just everyone kind of looked down, a little defeated. We've got to bring a better mentality to Saturday for the full game. It cannot be for 60 minutes. It can't be for a half. It needs to be for the full game. And I think, like you said, we don't want to get punched in the mouth. I think we need to come out and punch them in the mouth. We need to start strong. They usually have a little bit of a slower start at home in the first half, with only a +1 goal differential in all their first halves at home, which is a pretty poor points per match if you look at that. And then versus the second half, it's a totally different tale. So they just got cooked by Houston. Like I said, 4-1 yesterday. 2 of those goals came in the first 5 minutes. So Houston punched them out right away. They also scored 2 late goals. So we'll get to my late point there. But early, you've got to come out flying against these guys to have a chance.
I completely agree. And I think that's one guy we're going to have to rely on, as we always have, is Roman Berkey. I think he's going to have to play big with Abobase, putting shots on in Espinoza. So one thing we're definitely going to need to focus on. But is there anything else you want to touch on, Jake?
Nope. Just got to be meaningful with our chances. Got to have better substitutions, better timing. Got to have impacts in the game. Take chances. Take shots. Let them have possession. That's kind of what I would say in terms of offensively. Defensively, on the flip side, we cannot concede early, like you already mentioned. They're riding a little bit of a wave right now in terms of at home, so we got to be able to weather that storm. I think our midfield needs to take control of this game. That's not where they're the strongest, so I think whether that's Miggy, Blum, Indy, or whatever combination of guys that is, we're going to need to help our back line and protect them from this threat they have with their dynamic front players. Otherwise, I talk about set piece defending. You got to be comfortable and confident on those, and no late goals against this team. God, if we went to this game and it was 0-0 and we're going to the 81st minute, I'd be crapping myself, because we're just going to, you just know the writing's on the wall. We have to turn that around at some point.
Yeah, we need to make sure that we hold this, because especially no early goals, no late goals. I think that's the key right there. And we'll on the midfield. Let's talk about the midfield, Jake. You want to pull up the starting?
Yeah, I'll pull it up. There's one other thing I want to mention on that defensively, and that's that for this game. I don't have the lineup up, but I have up our screenshot. We can voice it over, Justin. But for this game, I think Berkey's going to be on his game, obviously, for crosses and the corner kicks, like I mentioned. But the goal for me is to get a point or 3 here, right? Because if you look at our away form, we haven't won away since March 25th against RSL, which we routed them. And we haven't even gotten a point away from home since 4/22. So, we're coming on 2 months now where we haven't been able to get more than a point away. It's literally been 2 months on the dot. So this is an opportunity to get something. Go get something. San Jose, obviously riding a little bit of a high, but they just got spanked by Houston. The weather will be nice. 73, 54, it looks like, high and low for Saturday. But in terms of who's going to go out and do this for us, this is hard for me, Justin, because I feel like rotation is likely in this game. I don't know who yet, but my thought here is, and I'll get to the question, is Hebert or Nelson at left back. So Hebert will return from his red card suspension. And people were crapping on him after the game. I don't know what game people are watching, but I actually thought Johnny played decent last night. I thought he had some good chances in creation, especially in the first half. I don't know if Kyle makes a big difference there in that game. I could honestly be more open to seeing like Hebert come into the center back pairing versus pushing Johnny out of the lineup. What do you think about that?
I completely agree. I would love to see Johnny on the left, Hebert back in the middle with Parker and Nerwinski on the right. I think Bartlett has been doing well, but I think there's a couple of these where we're seeing him just a little slow, and he's kind of getting caught in between stepping or not. So I'd like to see what we could do back with the Hebert Parker combo and go back to what we originally started with the season.
Yeah,
so
I like
appreciate that. And as we move to the midfield, I saw you have on here Blum making a little triangle with Blum and Miggy in front of the defensive four with Indy at the point man, and then you got Stroud on the right, on the left, and Nico up top. I would love to see it. The only thing there's a couple people chirping, I guess, at the game. I don't know if Miggy it's the defensive guy that we need there. But also, I just don't know if Ostrak did enough to hold it. So right now, without Leuven, it's kind of like, it's going to be Indy and Blum, but then who's that third?
I agree. That is the debate. And the only reason I put Miggy there is because obviously he didn't play a minute last night. And I think that might have been intentional to get him rested for this game. I feel a lot more comfortable with Miggy if he's paired up with a guy like Blum. Because I think what would happen in this game is how I would approach it is Miggy is my Blum and Blum is my Leuven and Indy is Indy in this game with our midfield three. I feel like Blum can do the Leuven role. And I feel like Miggy would feel a lot more comfortable with a guy like Blum helping him in the back. So,
I like that.
That's where I'm at with that one right now. Yeah, in the wings, I'm open to change. I would love to see an Aziel Jackson start, give him a full 90. I could see them going with that because Stroud played the full 90 last night for the first time this season. And Alm only played, 30, 40 minutes. So he's going to be fairly fit and ready to go. Nico, I do worry about running him into the ground, but we have no other option up top at this point.
No, I think that'll be fine. What do you got for a prediction, Jake? Oh, also want to give a quick shout out to, wrong side, Johnny Klein. Got some more minutes again last night. Yep. Always good for the Slew Bills. Shout out, Johnny. What's your prediction for the game, Jake?
Prediction for the game, I am optimistic in saying a 1-1 draw. I think that would be immense for us to come out with a win here. I'm just looking at generally, and I want to hear yours too, but generally we have 5 more games, right, between now and the League's Cup. I think we've got to come away with 7 points to keep pace while we bide time for guys like Klaus, Leuven, and Nilsson to come back. Nilsson's 2 to 4 weeks. I've heard Leuven is 4 to 6, right? Or 4, and then Klaus is 4 to 6. So we're looking at least a month more of not dealing with our forward and central midfielder, and Nilsson back maybe right before League's Cup.
I was thinking similarly to you, but I went with a 2-2 draw just because I feel like we've been a little bit shaky on defense and they have a strong offense, but then also I think we can still create chances against these guys and score on them. So I would love to see a nice little get us out there and get out with a tie and get a point, like you said, because it's been a bit. But let's talk bets. Money line. San Jose plus 105, City plus 215, the draw plus 260. Over under, the over 2.5 is minus 155. Kind of juicy. The under is plus 125. Both teams to score minus 180. I'm going to go first, Jake. My hammer is City double chance. For us to get something out of this game, tie or win, minus 135. I think that's disrespectful. This team is still good. Let's go out there and let's punch them in the mouth and get out of there with some points.
It's funny too, because remember when we were always plus money in the very beginning of the season? We were like plus 300, plus 200, no matter what. We were just riding that ship because we were proving guys wrong. I really hope we do on Saturday as well. I have 2 best bets for this one, actually. 2 Grahammers. My first one is a first half draw at plus 130. That happens 78% of the time for San Jose at home and 88% of the time for us away. So a first half draw is comfortable for me, and it's plus money play with plus 130. Otherwise, highest scoring half, it's going to be the second half for me, unless we just show out in the first half, which I would love us to. I'd love to be wrong here, but San Jose looks to be a much stronger team in the second half in terms of goal output. And I think we've shown we can score in the second half as well. So that's at the minus 105. So the highest scoring half to be the second half is at minus 105. I'm going for that as well.
I love it.
Yeah. So that's what we have for you all today. Otherwise, I got one question here. I think we've answered most of the questions coming in the comments too, but I got a question from Jack on Twitter. Justin, I want to hear your thoughts here. Is what do we need to look for in terms of fullbacks? Because to me, it seems that that is where we are lacking currently and where we get closed down. For me, I feel like it depends on what you're looking for in a fullback, which is exactly that question. And it really comes down to what Carnell wants, because we have different looks, right? You have Hebert, who's very forward in terms of looking at defense.
It's like, even if he's like a driver or analytical or whatever, like those things are going to be.
Are you good?
I'm having some technical difficulties, dude. Yeah, I was going in and out. Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. I was going to say, It really depends on what you're looking
25
for
minutes.
in a fullback. We've got defensive guys like Hebert, like pure defense. We've got versatile guys like Nelson who can play both. And you've got guys like, a Pedro who's probably more so just on the attacking side, almost like a winger or wing back. So for me, it just depends on what you want to go with. I think it's nice to have a mix of those in the squad, and I think we kind of do right now. But honestly, if you want to shore up the defensive problems, I think you got to go on more of the Nelson or Hebert side and just close up shop. Don't be leaky. Protect your center backs. Or you commit to a back three even and let those wing backs be wing backs. So it depends for me on what the coaching staff want.
It's going to be a big week for us to prepare for this. It's a lot of back-to-back games. We need to get these guys some fresh legs. So I think we could definitely see some changes. So I'm excited.
Yeah, I am too. And I'm confident that we can go on Saturday and mentally turn ourselves around from this game. Everyone seemed pretty frustrated last night, rightfully so. But everyone, chill out. It's going to be fine. Everyone that's freaking out saying we're frauds and we're exposed now, like, let it go. Look at the freaking Western Conference table right now. Like, we're not supposed to be here.
And relax. And it's going to be a 9:30 game. Get to the pitch. Get some drinks. Get some dinner. Get there early. Get a good spot. It's going to be a good time.
It will be. It will be. And Saturday, hopefully, will be a great time as well as City looks to get back on the board in terms of points here. But we're confident they can do it. Thank you all for joining today. And we will catch you on Sunday with a recap of this fixture. Until then, take care, everyone.
All for City.
All for City.